Hey everybody, welcome to the Insta Good Show. Glad to be back after a week off. And this week we have some really exciting stuff to talk about. Really can't wait to get to it. Today we're going to be discussing Instagram ads. Now I know a lot of us have probably worked through Facebook ads. They're very similar. They work very similarly. In fact, they work almost in the same place, you might say. So today I have a guest coming on that I want to introduce you to that has been in this mix for a while. And his name is Joe Chavez, and Joe is formerly the social media, I forget the title, but social media guy at what's that church? What's that church called? It's called
the Orange
Church. Evolution. What is it? Elevation Church. Yes, yeah. Elevation Church. You guys probably have heard of them. So welcome my guest right now, Joe Chavez. Hey, Joe, how's it going, man?
Hey, Seth. Good to be talking to you again.
Hey, you too. I'm glad to be back. And if we have, video issues or anything like that, guys, just audio seems to be working great. So the internet is what it is. So just be with us. Hang out with us today. So Joe, tell us a little bit about you and kind of where what you're doing now. We know where you came from. Kind of bridge that gap for us.
Yeah, definitely. So I worked at a church in Orange County for about 10 years. Got into church work through graffiti. Believe it or not, I used to do graffiti.
Okay.
Started, said I need to clean my life up, turn my life around. I started volunteering at my local church and became a designer, worked my way up through the digital ranks and became the digital guy there. And about 4 years ago, moved out to Charlotte, North Carolina to become the social media director for Elevation Church. So I was over Elevation Worship, Elevation Church, Pastor Stephen's channel, outreach, and all of our channels on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, you name it. And led a team of about, I think it was like 5 to 10 girls. I don't know why we had all girls on our social team, but they're amazing. Ladies are amazing at social media. Like I was just like the way that we could organize stuff and keep up with stuff and so many different things. I'm like, this is, I hats off to you, all you female social media managers out there. So did that. And last year I left working at Elevation Church to go help brands like NutriBullet and Taylor Stitch and Coldwater Creek and about 15 others there. Manage about 500,000 a month in Facebook and Instagram ad spend. So that's what I've been doing for the past year. I left so we Elevation between like 500 and 300 to 500,000 a month on Facebook and Instagram ads to drive revenue for these businesses through e-commerce. So in doing that the last year, I was thinking I really want to stay connected to the church still and help in any way I can, and decided to start churchfacebookads.com. Because I had seen guys like Steve Fogg, Chris Abbott doing stuff, but I was like, there needs to be more people in this space, like helping people out. And so I'm just trying to give away all my content for free and hop on calls like this and share what I've learned.
Cool. Well, before we get in further, give us the email. The website. Where do we go find you?
So churchfacebookads.com.
churchfacebookads.com. All right.
Yeah, so you guys believe it or not, that was available.
Right? I remember we talked about this before. You're going to be
their space isn't crowded yet.
Yeah. So like you're actually a guest on my podcast, Seminary of Hard Knocks, coming up. We already recorded it. And, the whole thing that brought this on was I was like, this is good for the podcast, but let's drop this in the group too, do something on Instagram because we talked about Facebook ads on the podcast. And you were like, hey, churchfacebookads.com is my website. I was like, how did you get that? How did you get that website? That's crazy.
Yeah, man. I debated. It's like back in the day they used to do like AAA and then the business name. And they used to do that because of the phone. They used to the yellow pages. That's why you see a lot of businesses name that. So I feel like it's the same vein.
Yeah.
As doing like the name of the business, nothing fancy.
Wow. It's amazing that you got that, especially, when did you pick that up? Did you pick that up recently?
I picked it up like 6 months ago. I decided to finally be like, I'm going to just do this thing. And kind of, it's just a place to house free content like on YouTube and a free course that I have. And
I can't
it's
believe
easy to remember too.
I can't believe Kenny Jahng didn't have that. I can't believe Justin Dean didn't have that. I can't believe Katie didn't have that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't believe nobody had that. That's amazing. So anyway, I can't believe Chris Abbott didn't have that.
Yeah. I mean,
so
I just
funny.
try to keep it simple. Wow. And I just see like this space growing in the future from what I've seen even at Elevation, like at that scale, how much our reach was dropping. And I'm like, ads are the future. And before leaving Elevation, I started the paid ads team there at Facebook ads. So we were doing a little bit, but then I began managing it. We were doing a little 20 campuses and online and worship and everything. And that's where I was like, there's so many churches need this, and just trying to help as many as possible for free.
Wow, that's great. And that's what we want to get into today is some info about these ads. I mean, right now everyone's thinking digital. Everyone is moving online. And even with like North Point's announcement recently about they're just not even going to try to meet in person until next year. And many other churches following suit after that. They're going to boost their needs to be online. So all these things are going to be happening online in social media spaces, on their website, church online platforms, etc., all these different places. And the invite of today cannot really be in person. I mean, we can't really print a card for people to hand to their people, to their friends, to their coworkers. It has to be a social media graphic that they will share, or we have to use ads of some kind. Yeah. Like that's I mean, there's probably other options, but to me, honestly, that's the biggest way to invite and grow right now. And it might be one of the only ways to grow right now, to direct people to your online service, to your website, to follow you in places. And so right now we're all scrambling, not just to get our online services up and going and making those look great, but getting people to attend and show up and pay attention to it. Gosh, what an undertaking, because most churches are not staffed for any of that.
No. And that's the thing is, like, I understand most churches, like even our social media team was like 5 to 10 people at a time. And but most churches have a team of one, and that's where I really believe like Facebook ads and specifically Instagram ads is a game changer. Where you can spend 50% of your time setting up ads and 50% creating content versus 100% creating content that only reaches 1 to 10% of your actual audience who follows you.
Right, and you're talking about just by posting it organically.
Exactly.
You can actually reach more people. So let's get into this a little bit. Obviously, Instagram and Facebook are connected at the hip. And whenever you're doing ads, many people don't understand or don't realize that to create an Instagram ad, you actually have to go into Facebook Ads Manager. So that's where we're starting. So this will be applicable, I think, for Facebook ads as well. But I want to focus on Instagram because this is the Insta-Good show where we help you get Insta-Good at Instagram. Yes.
And we will keep it Insta-Good, we promise.
We'll keep it Insta-Good.
Good.
But let's talk about, because on Facebook there's the boost feature versus making an ad. On Instagram, there's the promote feature versus making an ad. So talk a little bit about the difference there. And if anybody has questions along the way, drop them in the comments. We're paying attention here. So if you've got comments about Instagram ads, fire them off and we'll try to get to them here at least at the end. So
definitely. I'm going to put my phone too so I can see them. But
So difference between promoting and ads, what's really the difference here?
Yeah, difference is just control. I would say it all boils down to control. So when you're promoting, control. A lot of times, when it's so easy to do that you can just press a button and you're promoting to everybody who is 18 to 65 plus everybody, and you'll maybe forget to put on your zip code. Plus, if you do put on the zip code, now you're just promoting to everybody. Which then is promoted to Facebook, which is kind of picking and just going to show it to everybody. And especially being a church, just to be honest, most people don't want to hear from churches. They don't. There's literally a group of people on Facebook that don't like Facebook ads from churches. Like I saw a group for people who hate church Facebook ads. And I was like, okay, well, with knowing that, the best thing we can do is to be more specific on who we're targeting. So my recommendation for the first audience you set up is there's something called a lookalike audience. So you build a lookalike audience is basically Facebook's way of saying we're going to target people who are like the people of the audience you created. So I say, let's take our Facebook and our Instagram engagers, people who have engaged on our Instagram page in the last year, and build a lookalike off of those people. So that means everything your team organically is doing is feeding into your ad strategy. So that's the one thing I say is like you can't set that up through boosting a post or promoting a post.
Right.
And that's why I say like you have to use the ads manager to start. You're going to see lower cost per click and better engagement doing that.
And if you set up that audience, can you, in Facebook in the ads manager, can you then, when you do promote a post, can you access that audience?
I believe you can. Okay. I believe it's audience there.
So if you want to promote, you can. That might work, but you got to set up your audience in the back end of Facebook to actually have it actually work. right?
Yeah, and
So you got-
shameless plug, but like on the little free course on the church Facebook course, it walks you through how to do that. So that way, like you could set up this audience one time
Yeah.
and exclude anybody who's ever engaged in the last year from your Instagram page. So that way you're not targeting people who already have heard of you, and that way you're always bringing in new people. And the content I recommend here is sermon clips. So any sermon clip content, it's basically like a clip content. It's basically like a small sermon clip, like 30 seconds, that has a complete thought in it. So, you know,
that's
for them to kind of walk away, that's what we would always do is like,
important.
how do we take Pastor Stephen's 2-hour-long message and cut it down to digest it down to, so that somebody can get a complete thought. What's the thought we want them to get here? And then eventually they're going to go through and check out our site, and then they can watch the full sermon that way. But to invite them to church to spend 2 hours of their time, that's a lot. That's a big ask.
Yeah, you've got basically a pathway there identified for what if they click here, where are they going? You know, it's like how are we going to bring them from small chunks to bigger chunks?
Yep.
That's important strategy as well. So
yeah, in the copy, I'd recommend asking people questions, but don't use the word "you" because Facebook will flag you for that.
Really?
You, because the Facebook will flag you. Yeah, we've had our accounts shut down at Elevation because we were using you too much. So don't do that, and it's very hard to get to unlock. We had to create a new one. So to avoid using the word "you," but ask people questions. It is because the thing is the reason they do that is you shouldn't position it as something about the audience based on the data Facebook's given you. That's the whole thing. So if you just stay clear of you, it usually solves a lot of that. But you could even say something like this letdown could be your biggest breakthrough. We're not using you, we're using your, but it could be, and you can say can help versus is going to help, things like that.
We could probably do an entire show on things you can and cannot say in an ad that Facebook does not like. The Facebook gatekeepers are getting strict.
Yeah.
So it is complicated. All right. So let's talk about that audience. So creating the audience, I know you go into the back end of Facebook, and we probably don't have the bandwidth here to show what's going on, but you go into Business Manager, you go into your Ads Manager or whatever you've got set up, and you're building this audience. So what are some of the sources that you want to get your audience from? And how do you pull those into Facebook to create then that lookalike audience?
Yeah, so I'd recommend, like I said, starting with the Facebook / Instagram engagers. Off the bat, you don't even need your Facebook pixel installed or anything. You just go into your Business Manager, your Facebook. You go to set up a campaign. You're at the campaign levels where you set the objective, and you want to set that objective to engagement. So engagement or link clicks are the two I recommend there. They're going to be cheaper. They're going to reach more people for less. So you're going to set that up, and then you go into the ad set level. So it goes campaign, ad set, and then ad. At the ad set levels where you're going to set one ad set for Instagram, and then you're going to have another one for Facebook later. But the one for Instagram, you're going to set that one, you'll name it Instagram engagers, and then in parentheses put 365 days. That's just saying we're going to target people, who have engaged on our Instagram, who are like the people who have engaged on our Instagram in the last year. And then you scroll down to custom audience, and that's where you'll set up your Instagram, your audience. And I think Ryan Wakefield's done videos on this. A bunch of guys have done videos on this, and those are great videos to watch. And basically, you just go in there and you set up, you build a lookalike audience off of the people from the last year who have engaged on your Instagram. So, and that's always updating dynamically. So
that's cool.
As you're getting new people in there, and it takes their interests and their demographics and uses that data to find other people like that. And it takes you.
So basically, you're saying like you've got 3 levels in each ad, just like with Facebook, that when you're creating audiences as well. So you create the audience for the second level for each of those, because that top level is like, here's the ad of the campaign you're trying to do. Like say you're doing a fall festival or a back to church rally or something like that. Now you've got Instagram and Facebook separate in the second level under that as different audiences. And then within those, you can create.
You have your Facebook. And the reason we separated there is because you have your Facebook posts, and then you have your Instagram posts. And these posts aren't new ads you're creating. in the ads manager, they're just you do what's creating. You click in at the ad level. You use existing posts, and you can use your organic content from your feed. Yeah. And what's great about this is I call it social proofing, where it'll actually keep the social proof you've gained from ads on your organic feed. So it's not like ads where every ad is separate. This is actually retaining all of the social proof. And this is the way that I recommend to actually reach 100% of your audience. If you want to remarket people who already follow your page and that type of stuff.
That's great. So you said you don't even need the pixel installed because you're on Facebook.
Yeah, you're on Facebook, and that's why I recommend starting here. I recommend saying, hey, you have to install the pixel, and that only starts from the day you added it.
Right. So let's talk about the pixel. A lot of people don't know what that is. Facebook Pixel works for your website, but it also brings information in that you can then add to an Instagram ad as well.
Correct.
So you can take that Instagram audience and combine it with the pixel. If you want to.
So you could use essentially you can say, hey, I want to target people who have who are like the people who have engaged on our Facebook and Instagram feed in the last year, and that would be a lookalike audience. And then you can exclude people who have actually visited your website. So you can say, I want to target absolutely new people, but the Facebook pixel would help you exclude the people who visited your website. So the pixel is mainly for any website activity. And you should use the same pixel for all of your sites. So if you have multiple campuses, it should be the same pixel. You shouldn't have multiple pixels, just FYI.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's good too. And then we can also bring in a MailChimp email list, and Facebook will attach that to emails that match Facebook accounts.
Correct.
And figure that it won't be all of them, because some of them use different ones, but for your list, I have an email address I use just for mailing lists. Yep. And so if they try to find me on Facebook, they're not going to find me. So it's not going to work. But for most people, it works. But you can do that as well. And so there's a lot of cool ways to add to that list so that you're getting good. So you're hitting the right people with the ad.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's ultimately what I hear you saying, the big difference between a boost that's just let me pick an audience and a zip code and all this. It's it's going to hit everyone, or random people. Yep. And you can set age range on that. You could set a geographical data on that. And a little bit, but it's not going to be like this. This is going to be a lot more accurate.
Yeah, and I'll just paraphrase it in 10 seconds. Basically, you have prospecting, which is new people who have never heard of you. So you're excluding anybody who's engaged with you, anybody on your email list, anybody who visited your website. Yeah. And then you go to remarketing, which is people who have heard of you but maybe haven't ever attended or volunteered or signed up for a group. Mm-hmm. Then you have what I call loyalty, and these are the people who are on your email list, who are already giving, who are already signed up for groups, and who are volunteering. And think about it, in the loyalty bucket, that's where you're going to show your giving campaign for the end of year. And I would say continuously having some sort of campaign with videos showing them the impact that your church is having. Yeah. That content's perfect for them. Remarketing is personal invite videos, and then prospecting is just sermon clips, driving to the sermon page, and then remarketing off of that sermon page. That's the 3-step approach that I usually take with off of that set up for churches.
And we get into that on the podcast episode a lot more, so go listen to that.
Oh yeah,
when that comes out next week. I believe it's next week. So I think so. Look for the one for Joe coming up on Seminary of Hard Knocks. But we talk about the buyer's journey and how each of those types of ads matches up with that section of the buyer's journey, which is people, how they interact with your page and with your church, translating it for us. But
correct.
Let's talk about budget really quick. Budget, number, and length of a good ad, how long it should run. So the question is always there, and it's vague, and no one ever really knows because there's really not an answer. But give us some guidelines on how to judge what a good budget is for for an Instagram ad.
Yep. So I'll two scenarios. First scenario is if you've never run ads before, you're trying to just see how they work and maybe get some results to bring to leadership next week and say, hey, here's how much budget we need for next month as churches online now. I would start with $5 a day for 7 days. The reason I say that is it allows you to, it's like riding with the training wheels on. It's you're not going to hurt yourself, and if you do fall, it's not going to be that bad. And basically you run it for 7 days because you want to be able to tell Monday through Sunday what to bring to leadership the best, how did things change, and even be able to understand the results, what results are available when they come back, all of that stuff. I recommend starting with a link click campaign. It's very basic, but it will drive people to your site. And then, but if you've already run a campaign before and you're looking hey, we have an event coming up, that's where you just basically estimate how much is it going to cost per event sign up. So if you want somebody to visit, what is that going to look like? Say it's $50 for them to actually show up. And then you just back your budget. And how many do you want to see? If you want to see 5 in a week, then that's $250 a week. So just it's estimating. And then, if you don't have hard data yet, then just doing the math backwards.
Okay. All right. That helps a ton. Let's talk about length really quick as we try to get to some thoughts and other questions. But how long should an ad go?
Yeah. I mean, I've had some ads running 4 months, 5 months. Like if you set it up in this structure, you can let things run and just change content as it makes sense. But if it's a small event and you're like, how much lead time do I need leading up to this event? I'd recommend at least 7 days leading up to the event. Like I said, just to get over the week, what days are performing best. So I would at least 7 for an event. But then if not, you can let those things run. If your audiences are set up right, it's excluding the right people and bringing in the right people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion on how early we need to start advertising for something that's coming up, like a static event. There's a lot of confusion on that too, because it's like, can we run a 6-week plan, ad? Sure.
I would say 2 weeks max, because just the planning cycle, for us to even do this podcast, it took us about 4 weeks. Like planning a week out was like, that's a good amount of time.
And honestly, man, right now with everything digital, give yourself an extra 2-3 weeks on everything. Yeah, it just takes longer.
Yeah, it just takes
a little bit longer. So give yourself to get it done, not to actually run it, but to get it done. Give yourself the time and say, we're gonna. It's a weird time, man.
Now that I think about it, now you say that, I'm working in a church in Orange County right now, running ads for church in the neighborhood. Essentially, is what they're doing, and we started it 3 days before the weekend. So that's realistic. What's happening right now is by the time they actually get the content and have it all approved and ready to run and all of that, it's we have 3 days before the weekend starts. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's usually what it ends up is. I say a week at least, but it's 3 days.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get some of these questions, because I think we got some good ones here. We mentioned goals for ads. What are some effective goals because likes, site clicks, impressions? Every time we open up an ad in Facebook, they are like, "What's your goal?" And we're like, "I don't know. I don't even know what all these do." It's there's so many options. But now they've started to divide them up into the buyer's journey for you. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, awareness, consideration, decision, and
So it's kind of what are you trying to do? It's gives you a little bit of insight. But anyway, what are some of the goals that you look for? I know that this is a whole big thing. So just
I'll keep it short. I'll keep it short and try to give you real numbers, because I always hate when people do that. They're like, yes and no. So right. Like I said, with the journey being prospecting, remarketing, loyalty, prospecting being people who don't know you, I'd recommend doing engagement campaigns for any of your existing organic content. So that way it's going to get more engagement on the front end, and you should be able to double your engagement with just $5 a day. The best way to know this is you look at your current engagement organically, you run ads. One engagement is usually about 2 cents a piece, and then you can just do the math and say, based on the engagement we're getting, how much would we need to spend in a week to double the engagement? That's for prospecting. For prospecting also, you can run link click campaigns, which is just you would show a video and then optimize for a link click for somebody to click through a sermon clip and go to your sermons page to view all your other sermons. Not on YouTube, but hopefully you're embedding those videos on your website so you can remarket those people.
Sure.
For those, you want to see those at 50 cents or less. That's usually where I see them. Sometimes they're as low as 5 cents. Sometimes they're as high as 75 cents, but 50 cents or less is a good benchmark for those. And those are our prospecting. These are people who don't really know about us yet.
Yeah.
We're not trying to invite or anything like that.
Yeah. You're trying to find awareness. What about those in the middle? Those
those in the middle with remarketing. This is where I show a lot of invite videos, inviting people to church, and then as well as videos for people to join us for events, so they know of us. And now we're able to do Facebook events. Facebook events I usually see around $5 in the remarketing space, whether it's Easter or a specific men's event or women's event. Those are around $5 to $10 for people to show up. And that objective is just setting up an event on Facebook and then optimizing for that. So That's people saying they're interested. Now, them actually showing up is a whole nother story,
Sure.
but that's just them showing interest.
Yeah.
And then for the people actually showing up in person, I usually will do offline conversion. So that's something where you can upload the list. This is a little more advanced, but you upload the list of people who actually show up at a campus, and then you match that with the people who saw the ad. And that way you're able to tell, who showed up, but they don't actually have to go to any plan your visit stuff or anything like this.
Wow. I didn't know you could do that. That's cool.
Oh yeah. This is what we used to do across like the 20 campuses at Elevation. Is every week, like whatever they're giving you for, they're giving you their email after they raise their hand, and you can do this online digitally as well. Raise your hand, and you just reference online. You basically upload a CSV and you match it with that ad set, and then it will show you down to the city where these people came from. And I would do that a lot for online. You can tell down to the zip code the person who saw the ad and showed up at a campus.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's like
crazy.
A little more advanced, but that's where I'm looking. It all depends on the campaign inside of the level of your funnel. And then loyalty, I would just say doing video views there for loyalty. So there's two things. You can do video views. These are people who already attend your church.
Yeah, these are your people.
Yeah, your people. So video views, I would just have videos of, I'm sure your church has stories, showing those stories. And the reason you want to use video views is it's going to be cheap. It's going to be like less than a penny for each video view. And you already know these people in this audience are engaged. And they just want them to see the video.
Yeah. And
they charge you based on a 10 second, what they call a through play.
Yeah.
So that's super cheap to do it that way.
That's good.
Another thing I would test is just doing optimizing for people to hit your giving page or your opportunities page or your sign up for an event page or volunteering pages and online groups. That's where all this stuff is.
Yeah.
And you just optimize for them to actually fill out a form on your volunteer page. So you're seeing how much are we paying for people to come back and volunteer. And I think down here is like where you get into more of the conversion things where you track people actually filling out forms. This is where you're trying to get people who have attended for the first time plugged into a group, serving on the weekend and all of that.
Yeah, I hope everybody sees how this is a full-time job by itself right now. Oh my gosh, that's insane. The things that you can do that you really need to do now, or some form, not maybe to that extent, that extreme, but something like that is like that's
and that's
effective.
Why I say, like, just start with the prospecting piece of amplifying your existing social content, just because I see so many people spending so much time on content and ideas and all that will only reach, like I said, 10% max of your audience in most cases, unless it's a really good piece of content that goes viral.
Yeah, and for that third piece, the loyalty piece, those types of ads are so good for using social media kind of for what it's for.
Yes.
In that it is creating a culture around your brand, your church.
Yes.
It's like it lets people know what you're doing. It's like all those announcements that you're trying to do organically. Nobody's seeing those.
Exactly. I would literally
seeing that stuff.
I would time the announcements at Elevation. I was like, give me the announcement video, and as soon as we go live, like I had this picture in my head of people going and driving to church, and I was like, I pictured like a wife and a husband in a Suburban driving up to Elevation, and I imagine the wife being on her phone, looking at social media. But as soon as she's on social, now she's seeing the announcements when we have her full attention in the car before she's even in the service, before she shows up late to go drop off her kids. Obviously, this is pre-COVID, but now it's before she's trying to make breakfast at home and watch church in the background. And I think like that's where these ads are so powerful. Is like stretching out church announcements over the week versus just segmenting them to a little tiny window during the weekend.
Yeah, that's great. That's great stuff. So you mentioned doing the prospecting campaigns. That's what you would run if you don't run anything, which are the awareness kind of campaigns. They don't know who you are. Give us some examples of maybe some ideas of what those campaigns, content-wise, even could be. For prospecting.
Sermon clips, 100% are great. Any of your existing content on your feed. I wouldn't use graphics, so like sermon graphics, Life Church generator looking on your graphics, like none of that stuff. I would keep it more to sermon clips. Try to keep it 30 seconds or less. Remember, this is the first time somebody's seeing you. Try not to, it's just a little bit of information at a time. So, like I said, I'd pick sermon clips there, 100%.
Subtitles.
Don't even. Use subtitles if you can. Hopefully, you have those. If not, don't let that hold you back. But I wouldn't use stories here about life change and all of that stuff. Like you're going too deep, too fast. I would just keep it very surface level of, that's pretty inspirational. That's good content. I mean, that's a good thought. I didn't even think about it that way. That's what you want here.
That's good. And for me, what about like videos of your worship team?
Yeah,
Can you get away with that? I don't know if you can get away with that.
You can, but you have to. I would say at this point, I mean, it's more of like,
Yeah, it's not really.
I want
relative.
to introduce them to the like sermon should be first. And here, this is my thought always is like, if ultimately we want them to come to a service and enjoy it, we're vetting them at this part. Ultimately, we want to say like, are they even going to like this service? And if they join us, and that's what I'm trying to do here is find people who are willing to actually watch our content. So then, if we take them to the next step where we're showing them the worship band talking about like a new album we're releasing or just in the studio, like cool content that if you actually like this stuff, you'd like. Yeah. That's where that comes in at remarketing.
Okay. So that's more of a second tier kind of level of things.
I would say
Yeah. Cause that's how we tend to think about church, journey that way of like the service is the first touch, right? When we know that digital is really the first touch, but in the digital space, there's a whole set of reflection of what real life looks like, and that service is kind of the first touch. So the video clip of the pastor is the first touch online. So thinking about it, like then you've got what are they doing? Small groups. They're doing worship team. They're getting more involved in real life. So those are the types of things that might be good content for the second tier.
Yeah, second or third tier of people who have already come in. Another thing that'd be good in the top tier and that I've been seeing with e-commerce clients is using UGC, so user-generated content. Yeah. We'll save their stories, and it has the writing right over the story, so it looks like super native to the platform. Yeah. And when I was at Elevation on the online team, we would do on the weekend with Chad Zolos, I would go in and look at like people tagging us. And then we'd do that for after this series or after the sermon and be showing people's live stories like that in real time. I would DM them, hey, use this, and they would say yes, and I would basically screen record it, give it to our producer, and she would upload it right after the sermon ended. It's like, hey, thanks for watching at home, Seth Muse and at Seth Muse and at Joe Chavez and all of that, and so people felt extra connected. But I think just saving that content and using it for IG stories specifically on ads is amazing for the top tier, because like to see that and be like, oh, like you're seeing it watched online, and it feels like other people are doing it if that's your first touch with the church.
Yeah. And that brings up a good question I want to ask too. Where are you seeing more bang for your buck, I guess, is in stories and ads for those, or stories like on the feed? Or
I would say stories in the IG stories ads are cheaper for people to click through by usually like 25 to 50%. So if it's causing you, that, as well as the ultimate, I know for e-commerce, we're seeing like return on ad spend is how we measure a lot of things. So how much you spent versus how much money you made on that ad. And we're seeing that like double or triple when it comes to return on ad spend, mainly because Facebook will favor showing, or if you just set up an ad and target it to Instagram feed and stories, Facebook will, they'll favor showing it to the feed, because there's more real estate there. And most of the time your content isn't sized for stories, so it just doesn't look good there. But if you actually size it for stories, you can create a 3-part carousel, so 3 ads in 1 ad for the same price. And let that run. I would do 3 pieces of UGC, or maybe 2 pieces, and then the third one's your pastor saying, hey, we'd love to see you join us online this weekend. Swipe up for service times. And that's it. And
it's good too to think about it in stories, because saying, when you're making ad for stories, it's different than the feed or Facebook, because you can do that. You can think about multiple things in succession that they will see versus swapping things out and changing things for the feed, or swapping things out and changing them for Facebook. And so and look, you can take them through a little bit of a journey.
Yeah, and I get this sounds like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. Like this must be all he does. Like I remember leading the social media team, and it's like we spend so much time creating so many pieces of content that if I would have known what I know now, I would have said like, let's cut that in half and spend time setting up these ads once and then switching out the content every month. Like you can have 3 ads running for the month because you're excluding any new people all the time. And you can look at your frequency and tell how many people are we reaching, how many times are we reaching them, and as soon as that gets to 2 or 3, we're like, okay, let's swap out the creative. So it's just a better way to, it's like Facebook was in the old days where you just reached everybody. But now you have to set up these things on the paid side.
Yeah, keep it fresh. You got to keep it fresh, man. Wow, that's a lot to think about. So any parting wisdom before we get out of here? I know there's going to be people in the questions. We'll drop links to your agency and the Facebook ads course that you actually made. Drop that in the comments below if you don't mind. And when we're done with this post, and people can get to that. But parting shots of wisdom for Instagram ads. What you got for us?
Yeah, I'd say just start today. Start today with setting up that 10% lookalike. And like I said, I'm not selling anything, so I have no vested interest other than I want to see more people reached with your church. Like that's
Awesome.
literally it. So like start today, take that little free course and get yourself set up with the audience that actually targets the people who are engaging with you and piggyback off the hard work that your organic team is putting in already.
Yeah. Oh, and you mentioned something too I want to cover. You said 10% lookalike audience.
Yeah,
so
10%.
Scale it to 10%.
Yeah, just set up 10 and it walks you through in the courses. And I walk through like not doing a 1% because it'll eventually 1% has 2 million people in it. 10% has 20 million people in it. Because you usually target a small zip code, you're going to get way less people, and you're going to start hitting those people too many times and annoy the heck out of them. So that's why I said just go 10% off the bat. You never have to touch it again. Very low maintenance.
Yeah, and if you don't know what that means, just set up an ad. It'll hit you fast. You'll understand. Oh, this is the percentage part. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and I'd say dive in before you understand everything. Like you'll never know everything about Facebook ads. I don't know everything about Facebook ads, and just know though that you're only reaching 10% of your audience, so you have nothing to lose, even spending $5 a day.
That's word of wisdom right there for sure. So I'll second that cosign.
Take that flyer money and take your yard sign money and put it in here.
Yes. Stop advertising in print. Put it into the digital, or at least cut it. Cut it down. So anyway, all right. Well, Joe, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for watching. If the video worked for you, great. If it didn't, sorry about that. Content was still great. I know you could hear him. So we'll go back and I'll be writing some notes down as well. But thank you guys for joining us on the Instagood show. We'll drop links in the show notes, the comment section below when this posts into the group. So thank you guys for being part of this. We'll be back next week. See you later.